always said if I could go back and apologize to my first year students, I would. I got that chance in 2010 when the big flood hit Nashville. Brad had been one of my first students. I taught him algebra and geometry, and 15 years later, he was rebuilding my house. What did I have to apologize for? Being a first-year teacher. I knew math, and I knew developmental theories and child psychology, but I had not taught. I had not honed my craft. Brad had no idea why I was apologizing. He kept in touch with me through 7 years in the Navy, college, and starting his own business. This was no easy feat in the days of bag cell phones and dial-up internet that charged by the minute. I had unknowingly been one of his favorite teachers. As with Brad, I have no idea how many other students have considered me a favorite. I do know that I still try to treat my students the same way, only now with a little more purpose. To do this, I have 6 basic guidelines set for myself. First, I only have rules that I can enforce. Cell phones are a prime example here. Most teachers have signs posted all over their rooms saying, "No cell phones allowed." However, some of these teachers allow students to listen to music on their phones as a reward or ask students to use their phones for academic purposes. Do teachers really mean no texting or phone calls during class? When I was a kid, we used to pass notes, and this got us in trouble if we got caught. So is it a rule, a policy, a procedure? Passing papers in a certain order is a procedure. Sharpening pencils at the beginning of class is a procedure, unless there's a consequence for sharpening your pencil at other times. Then it's a rule. I take control of unwanted behaviors that occur in my classroom. If the rule is to only sharpen pencils at the beginning of class, and I have a student who gets up at other times to sharpen a pencil, I have at least 3 options. First, I can punish that student, but that usually ends up in a power struggle, and a power struggle wastes time and usually ends up with hurt feelings on both sides. Second, I can have extra pencils available, and I can walk over to the student periodically during the class and hand him or her a pencil so that there's no need to get up and always sharpen the pencil. Or third, I can assign that student a job in class, such as passing out papers, so that the student has permission to be up and walking around. It depends on why that student is up sharpening their pencil. Is it an OCD behavior where the student needs a sharp pencil, or is it just that the student needs a break and needs to be moving around? Either way, the student's need is met, and I've taken control of that behavior in my classroom. And this works with almost any behavior, not just sharpening pencils. In my school. When I taught at McGavick, Miss Powers was my teacher buddy. When I had a student who needed a break from my classroom, I would write a note and have them bring it to Miss Powers. This note would say something like, "Student X needs a break, send them back to class," or "Student Y needs a break, please send him back in 3 minutes." Because Miss Powers and I knew each other, she knew what to do with my students who had these notes. I also never sent any students who I thought would get lost along the way. You have to be careful with your students. This teacher-buddy relationship is reciprocal. Miss Powers is a life skills teacher, and she is now at Cane Ridge. She is one of the best if you ever get a chance to meet her. She had a student one year who had his heart set on trying out for American Idol, but he sang about as well as I do. His parents did not want to put him through the process just to have his heart broken. My students understood the type of students that Miss Powers taught, so we prepared my students, and the student came to our class He sang, we all cheered and clapped and were totally excited for him. He was happy and he didn't need to go try out for American Idol. There are many more stories I could tell about my relationship with Miss Powers, but the teacher-buddy relationship has to be built on trust because of the unpredictable nature of students. You have to know your strengths and talents. I am a special ed teacher or an exceptional education teacher. My talent is in dealing with students with challenging behaviors. Over my career, I've taught reading, English, math, history, geography, and many other subjects. I have been successful because I have always taught students who I can help with their behavior. Twice, I have been asked to help with students with severe and profound handicapping conditions in the Life Skills program. This is not where my skill set lies. Because this district is so large, I've been able to transfer schools and stay where my strengths are. If you're an elementary teacher and third grade is your thing, and you do not think you would be effective in kindergarten, do not be afraid to look around. If you're a science teacher and biology is your talent, and the school wants you to teach chemistry, if you're not comfortable with this, look around. You are most valuable to your students when you are teaching to your strengths and using your talents. In part of the words of Tim McGraw, be kind. The hard luck stories of our students' lives are true. I have kept food in my room for more than one student over 20 years. It's not about kids who eat only school breakfast and lunch. There are kids who are abused and food is withheld from them. And yes, you will have to call Children's Services and report abuse. We have 18-year-olds who live alone and are homeless. Nashville has no housing for them because they are considered adults. You may be the only kindness in that student's day. The more unlovable a student is, the more they are asking for love from you. Finally, be kind because one day your children will be students too. Brad was in my math class for his behavior. I could have told him he was no good and would amount to nothing like so many other teachers had before, but it just wasn't true. Brad was a cool kid who could not sit still to learn, and he wasn't the only one in that class. I used manipulatives, out-of-seat activities, and real-world examples to engage that class. I now have 2 children with IEPs, and I expect them to be treated at least as well as I have treated the thousands of students who have come through my classroom over the years. If you are doing a novel activity in your classroom, be explicit with directions. If you're using manipulatives, give the students a few minutes to play and explore before you start the lesson. They'll do it anyway. This goes back to taking control of unwanted behavior. Kids will do what you want them to. You just have to allow them to be kids. Is discipline necessary? Yes, but so is praise. About 10 years ago, there was a popular saying in education: teach as if your own child was in your class, meaning don't be boring. The flood of 2010 in Nashville taught me what I call the Brad principle. Teach like your students may build your house one day, because he did.